We hear New York City is going to quarantine itself. That is not true. That cannot happen. It cannot happen legally. No city in the state can quarantine itself without state approval.
Governor Cuomo talking about one of many legal issues that are popping up over coronavirus. What happens if somebody violates a quarantine or curfew? Could they be in trouble with the law? Also, how do the courts and jails deal with this? And how badly will it disrupt the legal system? Then you have the people trying to capitalize on a crisis. Televangelist Jim Bakker was just ordered to stop selling a potion that he said cured the virus. Same with Alex Jones, the conspiracy theorist, as he was also selling products that he claimed were cures. And now Attorney General William Barr saying that the Justice Department is going to prioritize cases of fraudsters trying to exploit the pandemic. Here to discuss that and more, former federal prosecutor Nicole Argentieri. Hi, Nicole. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Berit. How are you?
Great. So let's start with the directive from Attorney General Barr, ordering the U.S. Attorney's offices across the country to focus on cases of fraud relating to the coronavirus. Now, as you and I both know from doing these types of cases, these are nothing new. But what types of charges could DOJ theoretically bring for people that are trying to, peddle fake medication on the internet?
So I think that's just a classic wire or mail fraud. Anytime you have someone trying to obtain money or property and using either wire or mail to lie or to omit material information, that's a federal crime. And so it sounds like it's a good priority for the federal government to be focused on right now, and it's certainly within their wheelhouse.
All right, what I want to know is, could this type of investigation deal with those people who have been stockpiling hand sanitizer or other kind of emergency supplies and then trying to resell them at high markups?
I mean, that probably seemed a good idea to people in the beginning, but now not so much. So I think those types of crimes are more squarely within crimes that are usually prosecuted by the state. Like New York State has like a price gouging statute that's pretty fierce that sets out to protect citizens and consumers during public emergencies where people are marking up the prices of essential goods. Not so much a federal crime, but more something that I think state and local governments will be really focused on.
Well, they may have to answer to a higher authority for hoarding all of our sanitizing wipes. So let's talk about the ramifications for people who violate curfews or quarantines. This is new territory for us, but if somebody's supposed to be quarantined because they have the virus, are there any kind of legal ramifications if they willfully disregard this?
I think not really, which sounds sort of contrary to common sense, but because we don't live in an authoritarian state, while it's in the best interest of the public for everyone to obey those curfews and to use common sense, I think most people who violate probably will not be subject to prosecution in a criminal sense. The NYPD and local law enforcement will, of course, be able to use the other tools they have in their wheelhouse for people who are disturbing the peace, perhaps. But I don't think you'll see tons of people prosecuted for being out and about in the streets when they're not supposed to be.
There's a story reported about a passenger on JetBlue who was banned for life after knowingly taking a flight while he was waiting for the results of his coronavirus test, which ultimately ended up being positive. So in your view, in a situation like that, is that something where criminal charges could possibly attach?
I mean, possibly. I think it's hard to say. Wherever you have like a public crisis like this, I think there probably are eager prosecutors trying to figure out, how to keep the public safe. So I don't want to say never, but it might be punishment enough for that man that he never gets to fly JetBlue again and have his own TV screen.
This is true. All right, I want to move to discussing the effect that the coronavirus is going to have on the court systems. So there have been reports of trials being adjourned because of the coronavirus, court appearances being held remotely. So aside from sort of the practical implications, are there any bigger constitutional issues that we should be thinking about as this sort of threatens to disrupt our legal proceedings as we know them?
Sure. I mean, where I think this virus has had a real impact, and I'm seeing it with my clients who are under federal indictment and in state cases, all defendants have the right to a speedy trial under the Constitution. Federally, that means 70 days. And now, because of the virus and the way that it's affecting our communities, it's just not going to be possible for them to be tried within 70 days. So in the Eastern District, we received notice of an administrative order yesterday, basically waiving time or excluding time from that 70 days for basically a month to give, I think, the courts some breathing room to figure out how to deal with this crisis. This is also impacting defendants. I have several defendants who I'm representing, for clients who I'm representing who are incarcerated. And I was in the Metropolitan Detention Center last week to see one of them. And there's no hand sanitizer, there's no hand soap in the bathrooms, there's no paper towels. You're waiting for an hour and a half to see a client in an unventilated room in close proximity to others. I think that this, the issues with incarcerated defendants, this is going to be a real crisis for them. If one person in the prison is exposed, all of those defendants are at risk. All of the people that work in the prison are at risk. Think about the guards, the correctional officers who protect those inmates. And so it's a real issue just for basic housing for many people.
Well, that's an excellent point. It really does seem like the prisons are just packed with people that are in a very vulnerable position right now, both because of their physical proximity to each other, their lack of access to, a lot of medical care. Do you think there's going to be legal challenges that are brought to this? I mean, how are the jails and the prisons going to, deal with this type of a public health crisis?
Certainly. I mean, I know that many defense lawyers I've been speaking to have been contemplating filing motions for bond. I mean, if you can't keep people safe in jail, shouldn't they really be released so that they're not in close proximity to other people and they have a right to fight their case? I mean, the things that we've been talking about are just basic health. How are we supposed to, as defense lawyers, meaningfully visit with our clients and provide them with legal advice, review discovery with them, get them ready for trial? And so if this virus goes on for much longer, I think you're going to see a lot of motions to free these defendants so that they have a better chance at remaining healthy, but also a better chance at fighting their cases as the Constitution provides them with those rights. So at least in the Eastern District, this time has been told for the next month. It's all trials that were scheduled to start before April 27th have been indefinitely adjourned. And that's just one district in our country, and it's just one federal district. So I think we're going to be seeing the effects of this in criminal cases for some time.
What about the impact this is going to have on law enforcement? Do you see this impacting the ability of law enforcement to conduct their investigations?
I mean, I spoke to several prosecutors today on different cases, and it's interesting. Most of them were working from home, which is good for them and the safety of their families and their office. But for agents and police officers, it's very difficult, as you know, for them to do their jobs from their homes. I mean, investigating is being out in the street and interacting with others and gathering evidence. And so I wonder if there will be an impact on long-term investigations and being brought just because there are no resources out there. And I think there's also been a call by many in the defense bar for prosecutors and for the NYPD and for law enforcement to stop arresting people unless it's absolutely necessary, just knowing that this isn't the time where defendants are going to be afforded, their constitutional rights, frankly.
Well, thank you so much for discussing all these issues for it. Strange times indeed. Thanks for joining us. So up next, Rick, who's also an attorney, will join me and we'll discuss some of the legal issues popping up over the coronavirus.